Hi everyone, my name is Michael J Migliore, and as 2020 keeps trucking on, I must fulfill my responsibilities as your resident YouTube cinema critic. In the last week, I've watched 6 different films across the gamut of the internet streaming services, and now it's time for me to let you know what I thought of them, as quickly and as spoiler-filled as possible. I See You. Streaming on Amazon Prime, this film begins as a moody, atmospheric thriller, seemingly of a supernatural nature. While I started to really get into it at first, after the first third of the movie, they kind of flipped the narrative over on its head in the most anticlimactic of fashions. The film could have just waited until the final act to tell us about homeless teenagers squatting in people's attics without their knowledge. The film changes lanes so hard you completely lose all connection of the characters you spent the first part of the film getting to know. And after the film begins to pick up again, we're assaulted with what seems like plot twist after plot twist, all of which would have probably had some gravitas if we hadn't already been completely divested from everything that happened in the earlier part of the film after it came to such a screechingly halt and changed paces. The worst thing is the best twist that happens in the film happens right before the end of the film. It only serves to show you, to let you imagine how much better this film could have been if it just had a little bit better storytelling. The House in Between. Available to rent for actual money on Amazon, I received recommendations about this film from a popular podcast I listened to. The film is essentially a long-form paranormal ghost hunt in the likes of which you can be seen on extended cable shows such as Ghost Adventures and Ghost Hunt 90210. I don't know, the only one I'm familiar with is Ghost Adventures. Paranormal investigators stage a long-term investigation of a house in Mississippi that the film apparently documents 10 years of this investigation, and it proclaims it to be one of the most haunted houses of America. I don't know, I had never heard of it before this. If you're a fan of this sort of television, then you're probably pretty familiar with the ghost hunting disappointment. That's when you watch a ghost hunting show and they make big promises and they go on and on about certain evidences that they've captured, only to leave you less enthralled by the very mundane baseball rolling down a set of stairs. The film was basically just a bad episode of cable TV that, through supernatural means, imagined itself into a film. Crawl. Now I've been pretty behind on films for the last couple of years, and one film that came out a little bit ago that really piqued my interest was Crawl, the Alexandra Aja directed, Sam Raimi produced film about what Florida man and Florida woman go through every time they go through a hurricane. In this film, lifelong swimmer and University of Florida Gator Haley makes the drive out to hurricane conditions to check up on her estranged father. His neighborhood has been evacuated and has experienced severe flooding, and she eventually finds him stuck in the crawl space of their childhood home, trapped by a mess of gators. The two have to work together and find a way to safely survive without being drowned by rising floodwaters or being chomped up by the family of gators all around. This film is actually a super fun flick, and it's not without its massive degree of unbelievable and factually nebulous logic, but it's drive-through cinema at its finest. And while it's not intentionally making a grand effort to expound any sort of social criticism, it's a very human man versus nature flick that brings up family conflict and healing. This is a hurricane party that may not blow you over, but it's a fun little snack. Dark Encounter. Streaming for free on Amazon Prime, a series of bizarre events happen to a family a year after the mysterious disappearance of their daughter. The whole family is gathered together with all this dysfunction and untreated grief on full display. Everybody's snapping at everybody. The family begins to have strange encounters of the extraterrestrial variety. This sounds like a great UFO film, and I love me some UFO film. Even the poster looks absolutely phenomenal. Unfortunately, this film I would not enjoy. After the basic setting and mystery is established, the film goes on for what seems like forever, bringing us to the peak of tension, but never having any resolution. It goes on for over half of the film this way. We see a bunch of people just skulking around the house, highly on edge, trying to investigate mysterious lights and mysterious sounds, and bring us to the edge of our seats, only to cut away to follow another family member doing the same thing and just repeating the whole process. When the payoff finally happens, it is so mundane and it's so straightforward, it straight ruined the film for me. And at that point, the film doubles down on this whole benevolent alien trope, and I was totally checked out by then. And in the end, we find out that the poor girl met her end at the hand of the creepy uncle who's also the town sheriff, and it's just disgusting, and like I didn't want to see that. And the point is just hammered away with like this obnoxious, like melodramatic score, and yeah, this film was not worth it at all. Vast of Night. On the other side of the coin, The Amazon original Vast of Night, which is streaming for free with Prime, is an hour and a half of UFO Spielberg-esque nostalgia. One small night in New Mexico, a radio station DJ and a teenage telephone operator, just a little weird of a relationship, they stumble on this mysterious radio signal that precedes the small town's encounter with something totally out of this world. This film does an amazing job of really bringing these characters to light with interesting and believable dialogue. The dialogue is amazing in this film. It is wonderful and it's natural and it's interesting to listen to. And it makes it easy to enjoy the film, especially when the film gets to certain slower points, because it is very much produced much like a radio program, like Orson Welles' War of the Worlds, if you will. And the film itself is framed around the guise of this old-time sci-fi television serial like The Outer Limits or The Twilight Zone. And then honestly, I feel as though I could have done without that part, and it almost forces a degree of like hokiness to the whole thing amidst a gourmet plate of otherwise very healthy, filling nostalgia. The film is a great science fiction mystery, and I'll be honest to say that I would have liked a more satisfying ending for it. The serialized framework kind of makes it seem like it was put there in order to give us an illusion of closure around the film, but all in all, the film is a wonderful cinematic cosmic experience. Eurovision, song contest, something. Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams team up in this Netflix comedy. Will Ferrell has gotten to a point where he's reached the Adam Sandler point of his career where he'll star in films that just randomly just come out and you'll never hear about it until the time that they just came out. And I've heard nothing about this film up until the point of its release. I saw no promotion for it, no anything. And I always wondered about how does Netflix decide the films that they back and they kind of push. Because, you know, like for like The Vast of Night is one example. Like you can see The Vast of Night, promos for The Vast of Night on YouTube, on Twitch, on everything. Not so much this movie. I think I know why. It's not a great movie. Eurovision something or other, way too much long of a name and way too forgettable, is just that, very forgettable. It's about an Icelandic musical duo who aspires to win the big Eurovision Song Contest. At least Will Ferrell's character Lars does anyway. Rachel McAdams' character Sigrid is along for the ride because of her love for the music and the very inexplicable attraction that she has to Lars. Lars, not Will Ferrell's most creative character or good character, probably one of his worst performances, at least it's one of his least memorable. Now the film is good for a chuckle here and there, but for the most part, the bits are just tired stereotypes and European EDM artist tropes and like American xenophobia tropes. The film also stars Dan Stevens as the closeted Russian pop singer Alexander Lemtov. Stevens and Adams really give the film heart. Were it not for them, the film would have been a complete missable snooze. Big props to the film for actually also casting European music artists and actual Icelanders in fairly prominent roles, like, you know, like the whole town government committee or some group of people that are overseeing everything. I believe they're all played by Icelandic people. And I held out hope for a cameo from Bjork, but that didn't happen. This review probably would have been very, very different if Bjork was in that movie. I love Bjork. Now those are the 6 films that I put myself through this week so that you don't have to. Again, thank you very much. My name is Michael J Migliore. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, share. Thank you very much, everybody, and I am your man on film. Thank you for watching. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel, and please keep an eye out on the channel and my blog for content coming up in the next few weeks. In the meantime, please take care of yourself.